Snow Treasure, Chapter 8. Well, what are we waiting for? Michael asked. You know the way to this cave, or whatever it is. He turned to Peter. What's wrong with going there and getting this thing started? Uncle Victor had laughed because he had been warned the Germans were on their way to Ryswick. Per Garson had shown him out, and the children were alone in the room. They could hear nothing after the sound of his skis had died away. Right. Peter jumped up. We're supposed to be seen near the beach today, so we'll have to get started. But first there's something we should do before we begin any of this. I think we ought to make a pact we'll never tell anything if we're caught. We won't get caught, Michael spoke. But if we are, bah! He shook his crew-cut hair. I still think we should make a pact we won't tell one word about what we're doing, about taking gold to the snake. We'd hardly do that after what your Uncle Victor said about not so much as a word to strangers. Helga Thompson was scornful that Peter thought such a promise necessary. But if we're tortured, if they try to make us tell and torture us if we don't, Michael's eyes shone with excitement. What if they threaten to pull out our tongues if we don't tell? Not if our tongues are to be pulled out would we tell. Helga shook her black curls. There'd be little sense in that if they really wanted us to talk. Lavisa could always see the funny side. Then you wouldn't mind swearing? Peter ignored Lavisa's interruption. If you're sure you wouldn't tell, you wouldn't mind pledging yourselves. Certainly I wouldn't mind swearing, Helga answered. No matter how I was tortured, I'd not say a word. Peter went to the fireplace and climbed on a chair to bring down a sword his ancestors had used in wars against the Swedes hundreds of years before. He drew off its dried leather cover. Swear on this then, hands on the blade. I swear. Helga put her hand on the wide blade, and Lavisa and Michael put theirs beside hers. I swear. Lavisa's blue eyes were round. I swear I'll have my tongue pulled out. I'll be tortured with a red-hot poker, and I'll have my head on a pole before I'll say a single word. Michael spoke excitedly. And I the same. Peter put back the sword. Now we'd better be off to the cave for our loads. It's just us today. Tomorrow or the next day we will take the others. Should we make them swear too? Michael asked. What's the use? They'll know they're not to talk to strangers. But maybe we should make them swear. After what Uncle Victor said in school, about obeying without a question, I guess not. Peter had great faith in his uncle. When he gave a command, it was obeyed. Come on, let's be going. Beat you to the sleds, Helga spoke. There was a scramble for the door. On the way, buttons were done up, and zippers made magic silver seams down fronts of windbreakers that had been loosened when the children came indoors. Per Garson, Peter remembered. He's to be at the cave to load the sleds. He ran to the kitchen to look for him. He was not there. Peter opened the kitchen door. Outside on the snow, he saw a strange sight. Per Garson was racing madly around and around on skis. Old and bent, he was nevertheless skiing with the grace of an Olympic entrant. He swooped and sailed. He would loop and then take off in a jump. Peter thought he had lost his senses. Then he saw there was a design in the crazy pattern he was making in the snow. He's covering Uncle Victor's tracks, he guessed. For Per had already been down the slope and had made cat steps all the way down to the hollow at its base. We're going now, Per Garson, he called. Yeah, I go too. He made a mad leap and landed exactly at Peter's side. I see you by the woods. You know how to go, sure? Then he gave a solemn wink, his old eyes screwed in his brown, wrinkled face. Peter had not the least doubt where to go. He told Per Garson so. Is good. I see you there. He gave another long leap and began a long, swift flight through the churned snow. Peter raced around the front to get his sled. What did you do if you met a German right here? Michael tried to frighten the girls. I'd do just what I'm doing now, Helga's eyes flashed. I'd go on without so much as a look at him, she sniffed. They all knew the way to Thor's Rock, so Peter found he wasn't much needed as a guide. Never mind. After they got there, he'd have to show them how to go around the wall of snow to the cave. They trudged through the woods, taking all possible shortcuts. When they got to Thor's Rock and the place where the cave had been, Peter got the surprise of his life. There was no cave.